Hi, I want to make a video about a couple of topics that are very interesting to me, and I called the first of these two videos that I'm going to make. The first one will be called the Zeitgeist, and it deals with society and the periods that it goes through and try to make sense out of it. And then the second video I'm going to make would be called my spirit journeys, and also I had a lot of psychic and spiritual experiences, and for a long time I couldn't make sense of a lot of them. I knew that these were novel experiences, but I was looking for a framework, try to make an interpretation of what it meant, and I think I found some keys that will help me. One of these keys that is very valuable is what the Sufis believe, that the world or the universe is like an ocean, and the human consciousness is like a drop of water. And so when a person focuses on himself or herself and becomes aware of his own self, then it's really uniting with this ocean, and a lot of information and knowledge is that's within this ocean comes also to this individual. And the Sufis, they call this having a mirror of the heart. In the older Persian literature, it's called Jam Jam, which means having the chalice of a glass chalice, which means you can see in this on the reflections on this chalice, you can see the whole future or the past, or where somebody is or what's going to happen. Uh, well, the more you become conscious of yourself, the more you're going to become conscious of the universe, what it's trying to do or what it's trying to accomplish. But I am positing that the society goes through periods like Dark Ages or Renaissance or Modern Age, because this God or nature or universe, whatever you want to call it, it sends in its thoughts, its emanations throughout the humanity, and each person, depending on how receptive he or she is, receives some of this. Okay, so if you look at the human history, you'll see that there are periods like, say for example, the times of the Romans, it's the time of chivalry and conquering countries. It's really a very physical, militaristic kind of period. Everything is so violent, and so if you look at Roman culture, it's very strange, and so totally based on creed and skin, and if you're Roman, you're, oh my God, you're so special. But that period ended. The Christian era is more spiritual and more laid back. More as the Persians would call it, Rouhani, which means like it's more geared towards hereafter. And then we have Renaissance. But I'm saying that these different zeitgeists that exist, they don't just come about by their own. They don't come about from individuals. Or it's really it's like the God sends these energies, these thoughts, and it different people in different era, and we are like in we are on a train that's going on a journey that's it's like a movie that's already was made, but we are seeing different parts of this movie depending on our evolution. Uh, these ideas are not very palatable to the Western audience. People, when I tell them some of my experiences and some of my philosophy, uh, I'm often kicked out. But just hear me out, even though this philosophy or this theology is strange. Well, and the second part, which is my spirit journeys, a lot of my ideas are very similar to New Age ideas or teachings of Sufi master Shah Masood or Madame Blavatsky or Gurdjieff or many gurus. They talk about this stuff. There is a similarity because on individual level we also go through periods. For example, when we are young, we go through the period that is more geared towards first physical aspects, and then there is a period of emotional plane, and then what we're gonna experience. Some people and the mathematicians, they know this very well, is we go through Platonia, which is a mental world. We don't really go from any place to any place. And what happens is that the spirit that's inside each individual, it totally shifts into this direction and it becomes this, and then after a while it shifts again to become something else. So the Sufi way of describing this is called Seyre and Falsu Ofo, which means the journey through spirits and vistas, which is different worlds. After the mental world, there is a world that I would call purgatory, or is a lower world to an etheric world or hereafter. In this purgatory, the people who have done very poorly in life, like people who have committed suicide or people who have committed heinous crimes, there's a lot of guilt, and they're bound to their past and to here, and everything is really messed up. And I will, in the second video, I will describe some of my experiences of being in that world, journeying through it. And then after the purgatory or this intermediate stage, there is a world that I could only describe it as etheric world. I've had many experiences in this world, and basically in this world resides every person etheric double, and I want to describe how this is, because usually I see the etheric body of someone after they have passed away, and they come in a dream, and usually they look like the best that they could ever look. It's like a young 30ish or 25ish kind of person, very nice. So your own soul also represents itself to you if you are psychic or very sensitive like me, and you'll see this person, or I see this person as a very refined version of myself. It's like well, the Greeks knew about this. There is this Greek mythology, Narcissus. He's a young man that was passing by a pool, and he saw his own reflection in it and fell in love with it. Well, when you see this etheric body, your own etheric body or your own soul, it gives you a great feeling of serenity, as if, well, in the Christianity is portrayed as father and son, and the religion of Islam, Prophet Muhammad talks about when he was meditating in the cave, and angel Gabriel showed himself to him as a young man. Okay, usually this is not an angel or anybody else. It's just you, but he's presenting himself in the most delightful way that you would ever want to be looked at. Anyhow, in my case, usually he shows up like a young man, and he's very carefree. He just looks like I was 18 years old, very astute and very he pays no attention to me. The other way he shows up as very refined, like the very best that I could look, just like a professor, but very charming. I mean, my dad, when he passed away, he shows up in dreams, but he showed up as a young man once. I didn't recognize him, but usually he tries to show up the way he looked when I was with him in his 50s, but it doesn't have to be like that. So this etheric body is this is a real thing. It's not my personal imagination. I was watching this movie, Passion of Christ, and when when the Lord, like this young man, he has this bluish hue. He talks to him. He says that Judas is going to betray you, and all that, and you will rise up after 3 days, and and he said, with you everything is possible, Lord. And this, when I see this etheric body, I understand that this is the real me. Okay, what I have here is the physical body is a reflection of this higher self. Okay, so beyond the etheric body, there is another body, there is another realm, and there is another body that goes with it. But as a psychic, as a spiritual person, I'm not evolved to go in there. Okay, but I have had a couple of dreams, kind of points in that direction, and this world that's beyond the etheric body is formless, which means that its existence without manifestation. As the Sufi master said, "Bude bi namud," which means that you become conscious that you exist, but you have become unneedy of form. And I only have one dream that I see this, and it's many psychics, they never go there. I mean, the Sufi master or other prophets, they talk about higher realms beyond this, but my station or maqam, which means like how far I have grown, is pretty low. So I mean, it's not very high, and so I haven't gone there, and but I am conscious of this. The Mr. Kasravi, one of the top-ranking students of Sufi Master, said that between man and God there is 70,000 layers of light and darkness. And then he added that every higher level is like millions of times more enlightened than the previous lower level. But this discussion it should be reserved for the next video, which is the it's called My Spirit Journeys, and just like my other videos, it's pretty hard to follow. I don't really expect a lot of audience, but the video that I am doing right now is called Zeitgeist, and it's deals with different periods that humanity goes through, and there is in the Buddhist theology, Buddha said that usually people they live a life or they have some attainment, and for example, they fall in love with somebody, and then they cannot make that love or that desire come true, or something happens, or whatever. But the desire itself, it starts tormenting them, because they're trying to arrange the material world to make this desire come true, which is not a very easy thing to do, because the material world and other people, they have their own mind, and then they start suffering. Or the other way it happens is that, say you have a lot of money or wealth, and things change, and then you lose some of it. What happens is that most people, they yearn for this past and try to go back there, as if there is a time machine you can do that, and this becomes a source of suffering, because you're struggling to bring to life what is only like a dream or a plan. The great Sufi master or poet Hafiz says, take this tree of desire from the root, like burn it. I mean, so that this is the basis for viewing Zeitgeist, because if you look at it, you'll see that well, before I go into these reasons for Zeitgeist in different eras, is that well, each person, when they grow up and they go through life, they form some theory or ideas about how the world is. It's like a ghost in the back of their head, or everybody's head, and this ghost is like when you look at the events in the world, you kind of refer to this past experience or this past ghost, and say, oh, things happen like this in the past, so the future may be like this too. Okay, but it's like a world view, but this world view sucks, because it's based on collecting information through the incomplete information through the senses, forming some kind of vague, or inaccurate prediction of the world. We can do this more accurately. We can make observations with physical world and make theories, and we can see that many of these theories, they fall apart, or they cannot explain everything. They explain some things, and then they have shortcomings. So Prophet Muhammad said that whatever that you build in your mind, whatever you formulate in your mind, this is like a creature that you have created. It's like a goddess, and it will fall apart. It will fall. Well, the words he uses is that it will return back to you, which means it's just gonna fall on your face. But this ghost that we construct of the world, these theories, these conceptions, or these goddesses, they are not reality. They are just it's just a ghost. This is just a similitude, and the true reality, according to the Sufis and many mystics, is getting in touch with yourself and seeing the reality, the consciousness of universe through this consciousness, because this consciousness is also the same as the universe. So when you go back here, you're gonna see the whole thing. But what you construct in your head is always incomplete and is always got some issues. But this concept is extremely difficult for most people to digest. For example, I could say some example. Many politicians are reruns of past politicians. Like Trump is a rerun of Reagan. Um, you know, many generals, they fight the war as if it was the last war, whereas in the meantime the technology has changed, all the weapons have changed, but the ghost that sit in the back of their mind, as the Sufi master called mayar, which means the standard or the measure. It's stuck in the past. I recently had to move from the old neighborhood in Santa Ana and came to another place, which is really much nicer. And I had to go back to collect my mail, and I haven't been there in like a week. And then when I went back in there, I was telling myself, this place is so dumpy. How did I like this place? The thing is that when I grew up, like we're talking 4 years ago, okay, in the end of Shah's time in Iran, I was living with my parents in a like a middle class or lower middle class part of town, and people were kind of laid back, and they were not rich, they were not poor. It was just, they just go along and try to make the best of everything. And when I was comparing it to this part of Santa Ana, I was saying the reason I like that place is because my mind, what's in the back of my mind, is still there at 1975. You follow what I'm saying? My zeitgeist for housing is still back there. So the other thing that the historical periods signify is that each historical period is constructed on a certain economy and certain ideology or religion or way of looking at the world, a certain cosmology, if you would. Okay. So what happens is is that as time goes on, there's technological advances, and people become richer or poorer, or they move, or they become older, and they change from inside. Their way of looking at the world changes. So a given society, like the United States in the 1950s, okay, their society was built on this middle class and these industries that were back then, and it was a certain kind of liberal democracy. Anyhow, well, right now, none of those things exist. Okay, all these people have retired or died, and none of those industries exist. We have whole new industries, and none of those jobs exist. We have whole new jobs or less jobs, and many of these people that are here now, they're like millennials. They don't understand anything about the past. So what the government or the Wall Street or institutions that we have now, they are the creation of this society in the 1950s. Okay, and those people, they're all either dead or I don't know where they are. They're retired, and if and the people who are here, their zeitgeist, their projection of what the society should be has not really solidified or congealed, or they haven't really done anything. They're still young, and so all these institutions, they do all this stuff, but all of it is wrong. None of it solves any economic problems. There is no the politics is completely wrong. It doesn't belong to this age. Okay, it belongs to previous age. So what I'm saying is those people who are like spiritual and they listen to these songs that are coming from the universe, and they understand that this zeitgeist has gone by and you have to do things far differently. You're in this period, they will succeed, and they become the new zeitgeist, the new period, the new, and the rest of the people, they'll become like dinosaurs. These institutions and things that are built up, because they don't function. They were designed to function with this previous generation, and whatever they do is wrong. Whatever they do, it's like you have an input-output device, and the input is supposed to be a sound, but you're used to sending images into this device, and the device doesn't know what to do with this. The input is wrong, and the output that it gives out, it has no relevance to this thing. So my understanding is that you should understand what zeitgeist you are in, and also you understand this. You understand that there are many governments and many institutions, many forms of money, many economic relations, many that are extremely outdated and obsolete, and they have to go. Either they will become useless and nobody use them, people gradually migrate, or there is violence, and it comes about through harsh changes. It takes some time for people to understand the zeitgeist that we are in right now, and it is this: everything, every device, every even biological systems, anything is becoming information. Information that a device or something can at a later point print. For example, right now we are developing bioprinters, but you don't know where this might lead. Say 10 years down the road, there comes technology that totally maps out every molecule and every atom and every bond the way they are in the entire body of a mouse or a human being. So, and there is this another device, that's the scanner part. There's another 3D bio part, printing, and it prints. It has a printer head with 40 or 50 elements that you feed in these tubes, and from the other side, after it prints, a mouse jumps out, which is exactly the same as the other mouse. Okay, so we are going towards everything becoming information. Okay, now every device or every electronics, it can be encoded, it can be scanned and be printed or reversed back into information. So if your zeitgeist is in the past, like me 40 years ago, and you're trying to bring all the industries back and pay people wages and make those run. Okay, do you think this is really old and there's something wrong with that? Okay, that's old capitalism. But there also when everything becomes information, like a 3D printer can replace hundreds of industries, not just one or two. You know, previously we had, for example, a car company. We had hundreds of different shops making parts. Some deal with sheet metal, some with the screws, some do stamping, some cutting, some forming, some this, and there was entire industries that were doing that. Well, now 3D printer can replace like at least 50 industries, okay, that were doing all this stuff. So if you go by this zeitgeist, but at the same time, when you go by this new zeitgeist, a whole load of people lose their jobs and their livelihoods. Well, this is just like the agriculture. In the past century, many people were in the agriculture, but then after a while, it became automated, and a lot of people had to go do something else. So there is no way to stop this, which is like a race to the bottom for the price and performance of many gadgets, parts, or whatever. So the only way is that we need to rejig economic system so everybody can get a cut of these profits or whatever is made or whatever is provided. Otherwise, we'll all be in the street. So this is the new zeitgeist, and another thing with the new zeitgeist is that it's going to become impossible to hide things, like a government, do some secret things, and you can't do it because there's so many servers and so many channels and ways that information can travel that it is almost impossible. And if you study democracy, you see that the democracy, the only thing it needs to exist is freedom of information, that information can travel. And this is just like the race to the bottom for product, price, and performance. This is also like a march towards absolute transparency, because you can't stop these the news from getting anywhere, from information finding ways. Then the third is that millions and billions of people are getting online and connecting. So, for example, if you had, I see this in the movie business, the people are themselves making millions and billions of videos. Some of them they go viral. How many studios you know that they got? They made a video and 5 million people saw that. I mean, I got some directors writing to me and saying that they had done projects on YouTube and they had an audience of like 3 million or a million. Okay. Well, personally, I don't have such an audience, but if I wanted to compare myself to philosophers in the past or even to the Sufi school and the numbers I'm getting a lot of people tuning in. Because we are in a different era, and information or opinion, it doesn't need podium. It doesn't need a certain building or a certain structure. It can travel easily, and the audience will find it. Okay, so I mean, this is a new era. I mean, the other trend is these superstructures or these companies that were based on scarcity and they were centralized, they cannot exist in this decentralized world where everything is available, because this company was built in a different assumptions, in a different environment, it will have very hard time functioning now. There is other trends, but the Sufi masters say as time goes by, everything becomes more spiritual and more accessible, more the whole world takes part in it. I will be putting out this other video, my spirit journeys, and that one is very hard, and you need to study some metaphysics or study some spiritual teachings of maybe like Buddha or Sufi master, and try to understand it. But it's not a theory, because many of these things I've personally experienced it. And the other thing that I want to stress is that I do not claim in any shape and form to be any kind of spiritual teacher or any mullah or clergy or politician, or I do not want any of these jobs. I do not want any people that think along those lines. I don't want to be a reference point. This is just personal experiences, and also I do not want this to become a financial pursuit. It's simply I pursue it for its intellectual or spiritual value. Okay. Thank you very much. You have a great day.